there, this is Kathy Thomas coming back at you with what looks like part 3 of my experiences and things that happened after I left the Watchtower and how I transitioned. And you know, I think some of the other frustrating things for me prior to leaving the Watchtower that had me a little on edge a lot of times was the fact that because I was self-employed and because I was really interested in business and I considered myself a leader in my industry, and I was really innovative and creative, and I could do all of this stuff and be creative on the outside, but when I went to the Kingdom Hall, I was this lowly elder's wife, a person who really couldn't say much other than raise my hand and give a little menial comment, or someone that would give a talk on the school. Mind you, I'm not saying that I wanted to be teaching anyone from a platform. I'm just saying that the level of respect that Jehovah's Witnesses are given, the Jehovah's Witness women are given, is like, go sit down and shut up. So you're not even looked at as being someone that can be consulted on anything. So, you know, here I am meeting with clients, their attorneys, their accountants, and all this kind of stuff, financial advisors and whatnot in the business world. But then I come to the Kingdom Hall and I have to come in there and I'm just nothing, you know. You know, it's funny when I look back and I remember how the sisters in the congregation after JT had given a talk and he did a really good job on the talk. They'd say, oh girl, you need to go home and fix that man a good meal because he gave that talk. And then I was saying in the back of my mind, well, I wrote the talk. It should have been good. But you know, you don't really want to say that. And I'm not saying I wrote all of JT's talks, but I did help him sometimes and gave him analogies to use for different things that he was doing in his talks. So, of course, we put our heads together to come out with a good product. And sometimes he would go over the information and ask me what I thought. And then I would give him my, take on, how he could polish it up a bit. But, of course, a lot of times people, they don't really realize that. They don't know that. But, it's not about just you being a male or you being a female in the world of business. You can do things other than just be someone's wife. Because in life, we all have to be happy. We all have to have some kind of accomplishment and sense of being. And I remember this brother I had met at a networking event. And, he was in business for himself, and he was excited to meet a sister that was in business for herself. So one day he invites me to this meeting or this luncheon. He goes, oh yeah, every week me and the brothers in my congregation, we get together and we have lunch. And so I'm not thinking, he just said brothers in congregation, they meet, they have lunch, and he invited me. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll go. So I show up to lunch with this brother, and I get there, and there's like 12 brothers, a combination of ministerial servants and elders. And I knew one of the elders that was at this meeting, and the look that came on his face. Now, mind you, had no problem with this brother. He was good friends with JT, and he knew me, and he was very nice. But he could not understand why this brother had invited me, a sister, to meet them for lunch. And so I could have just, if the ground could have opened up and swallowed me, I was ready to go. So anyway, they went ahead and they invited me to go ahead and sit down for lunch. And the brother said, well, now that Sister Kathy is here, we're not going to be able to do our normal talk that we have. We're not going to be able to talk and discuss the things that we normally discuss in our lunch. So in back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, they must get together and gossip every week about the friends in the congregation. So anyway, during the time that we're having this luncheon and everything, I'm trying to, fit in with the conversation. I'm trying to, have something to say. So I make this comment, and the brother says, what? He's going off like he's trying to figure out, how did I know this? And I said, well, he thought that maybe JT had told me this information that was supposed to be held in confidence. Well, unbeknownst to me, I had no idea that that was all going on, because as I told the brother, this information that I'm telling them right now had been related from the platform at our meeting at the Theocratic School and Service meeting. And so then he said that he was going to have to call the presiding overseer in our congregation so that he could let him know that the society had explicitly commented that they were not to make this announcement from the platform. It was funny. But just looking back on it and how crazy it was and how, when you were a woman, there were certain things you could do in the organization, certain things you couldn't do, and certain places you didn't want to be, One of the things that I remember too, being self-employed, was there was this lady that I used to work for. She was one of my clients, and she referred my name out to this guy who had got a contract at the Department of Justice. So we worked on this contract for about 6 months as trainers. I was a trainer on the team. It was like 12 trainers that were invited to be on this team to train the Department of Justice personnel. And I was excited because I had the U.S. Attorney General staff on my, the U.S. Attorney General staff, some of them were in my training classes. We had people from that program called America's Most Wanted. They were in my class and stuff. And, I'm all excited about, the people that I was training, the people that I was coming in contact with and everything. And I was at the meeting talking about it, and the sisters were looking at me like they just couldn't believe that I was in there talking about that at the Kingdom Hall. And, what else do you talk about? You can only talk about Jehovah's Witnesses and what's in the latest magazine. But because I like to talk, I'm talking about what's going on in my job during the day. Well, anyway, so this one sister was like, oh, you just let JT do all the, be the breadwinner in your family and let him take the lead. Because you know how Jehovah's Witnesses are. Women have to just sit back even when it comes to working. But I just kind of smiled and realized that, I was talking to the wrong audience. But again, this is all during the time that we're leaving the organization. Oh, and remember the brother that I told you about that was my husband's best friend when he was at Bethel. Well, when they moved down to Virginia, he was trying to get some help with his resume. And of course, I didn't mention I used to do resume writing as well. I've done everything, right, from A to Z. But like I said, computer training became my specialty. So when I got the brother's resume, he and his wife had balloons on the resume. Yeah, pictures of balloons in the background on this resume. So I get the resume, and I'm kind of like laughing. I'm like, why do they have these balloons on this resume? Are they going to get a job in the circus? Are they going to whatever, So anyway, remember, now I'm a sister, and I'm getting ready to give some advice to this brother and let him know that he has to take these balloons off of this resume because no employer is going to take him seriously looking for a job with these balloons on this resume, right? So I'm letting him know that we're going to remove the balloons off of here because this is not going to fly well with that. But of course, he's looking at me at the corner of his eye like I'm a sister. So how can I tell him what to do? Well, I need to let people know that yes, I'm a sister, but that was my area of expertise at the time, and that is not something that you would put on your resume. But it's just really funny how whenever you know something as a sister, even though you're in the business world, I find that brothers in the organization still like to look at you as if you're this lowly person that possibly cannot tell them what to do. And it's interesting how you know your area of expertise, and at this point in time, it really has nothing to do with you being a sister or not. It just has to do with the fact that this is your area of expertise, and this is what needs to be done. And so I think a lot of times Jehovah's Witness brothers don't really understand that. Another incident I ran into when I was self-employed was I was working as an instructor at a computer store. At the time it was called Comp USA, and I was invited to come over there and teach a class. And there was this brother who was in our sister congregation. He was one of the elders in that congregation, and he came in the door with 4 of his co-workers. And it was amazing how he didn't even acknowledge me. He didn't even let those people from his job know he knew me. And I just let him do that. I said, okay, he may not want to be affiliated with a Jehovah's Witness, and he doesn't want those people to ask him how he knew me. So he acted like he didn't even know who I was, So it wasn't until the first break, and I got a chance to talk to him a little bit, And I remember he saying, "Oh, you are JT's wife." You know, he remembered that. So I said, "Oh, so you did know who I was, but you tried to act like you didn't know me." So I find that a lot of times when Jehovah's Witnesses are on their jobs, they don't want people to know that they are Jehovah's Witnesses. So it makes me wonder how many people that are actually working their jobs don't tell people that they're Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, because they don't want people to ask them when they see another witness how you know them. Obviously, they don't know that you're witnesses, because if you were, they would just say, "Oh, she goes to the Kingdom Hall." It wouldn't be a matter of them having to explain that if that person already knew that they were one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So that was just interesting how that brother tried to act like he didn't know who I was, and mainly because he did not want his co-workers to ask him how he knew me, you know. So I find that a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that go to the Kingdom Hall, they keep their business separate. And when they go to work, they're at work. When they go to the Kingdom Hall, they're at the Kingdom Hall. And I tell you, I really wish that I would have done that too, because I cannot tell you how many jobs I have worked where people just thought I was absolutely insane with these teachings, and it really made a difference in how they treated me. And especially when I worked at this one large corporation, and I worked with a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses at this particular place of employment. And you had Jehovah's Witnesses that spanned the gamut. You had witnesses that were questionable, Ricky Righteous. They didn't have any way to talk to people. They would say things that was kind of like out of the way to people, and they were rude. Some people were nice. It was just all a whole lot of different personalities, and they were all Jehovah's Witnesses. And because you identified yourself as part of that group, they looked at you the same way they looked at that person. So what ended up happening was you had to carry the attitudes and personalities of other Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, when a Catholic goes to work or a Baptist goes to work, you don't hear people getting into a beef or confrontation with them and then saying, "Oh, that's how all those Baptists are," or "That's how all of those Catholics are." But I remember overhearing a conversation with two non-Jehovah's Witnesses that had just gotten into it with a Jehovah's Witness on my job. And as the elevator door was closing, they didn't know I was in the elevator, and they were talking about this brother because they had had a confrontation with him. And the comment was, "Well, you know how those Jehovah's Witnesses are." So, you know, sometimes you just get tired of having to, you know, every time someone talks in a bad light about someone that belongs to your organization, they kind of lump you all in there together. And so I'm so glad that now when I go out into society, I don't have to be labeled as a Jehovah's Witness, and you know how they are, and you know how crazy they are, and all of that. So it's just amazing how things have changed for the better since leaving the Watchtower. This has been Kathy Thomas. Thank you for tuning in.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.